And welcome to the show. Today, we're going to talk about hormones, when they are shifting, and most importantly, are you paying attention? So, not everything is measurable, right? We really have to trust in how we feel, and we know when things are different. Sometimes it's hard to describe. It's hard to kind of put into words when we are feeling off, but we just know when things are different, especially with diabetes. Blood sugar is definitely something that's measurable. I think that is one thing that I noticed specifically when I was going through really just hitting menopause is when I really saw, obviously, insulin was going up, insulin needs were going up, and blood sugar was harder to manage. So my A1C and time in range and all these things were starting to shift. Know today, you don't need to chase every symptom, but you do need to, you do need to trust your sense of what's shifting and be brave enough to respond and to know what to do with this information. And that's what today's episode is all about, is tuning into the changes that come with our usually starts in our 40s and all the years after that. So the hormone shifts, the subtle symptoms, and what it really or what it actually looks like to honor what's different for your body. So as you move through, or I should say, as we move through, I'm definitely past 40. I'm in my late 50s now. It's just really important, I think, that we pay attention, that we honor what we're feeling, and that we're not willing to dismiss or to just brush off. Or worse yet, is to think it's our new norm, right? It's just something we have to continue to kind of deal with. And it's not about obsessing over every ache and pain, but tuning in, just knowing that you don't need to live in pain. You don't need to suffer. You don't need to chase blood sugar after the age of 40 until you leave this earth. It really is something that we can develop a plan around. Because when you know what to look for, you start noticing what's actually changing. I want to share a client story. She came to me. I didn't realize, she said, how much I'd lost until I got it back. So she reached out to me online, sent me a message in my DM, and one client, and she felt fine. No big complaints, just figured she was aging, right? But after starting HRT, so she started on hormone replacement, she said, yeah, I'm seeing the benefits, or I'm recognizing the possible benefits, so let's jump on. So she got back in touch with me a few months after getting on hormone replacement. So this was estradiol and progesterone, and she immediately saw how it was improving her insulin sensitivity. And she was sleeping better, two of the big things that we definitely notice. But this was the one that she didn't realize how much had slipped until she regained it. She said she got her vocabulary back. She could find her words again. Isn't that a bonus? And her focus sharpened, no more brain fog. Her balance returned. I think this is huge too. This is something I've noticed. I definitely is something that I am more aware of. I have to be a lot more sure on my feet. I tend to be a fast walker, and I tend to dart around and move around maybe a little too fast, but it's something that I've noticed when my estrogen is not at its optimal level, that I can feel that kind of out of balance. It's really like your center of gravity and your center of balance does shift. Again, another sign, but it was just really cool to hear her imagine getting this back when she didn't realize. She got used to just these symptoms just kind of slipping away a little bit. But when they returned, when all of those abilities came back, she was like, whoa, what a bonus, right? So, and she hadn't connected those changes to her hormones. Many of us don't until they were reversed. And she's still early on in her hormone replacement protocol. So stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be some more things that she's going to be really happy about. Sometimes we don't know how far we've drifted from ourselves until something brings us back. So I loved that she took the time to reach out and share this with me. So why this matters: hormone stages shape our experience, right? So in our 30s and 40s, cycles may still be regular, or not. It's different for everybody. We might still be in perimenopause, even with normal labs, and symptoms don't always scream. They whisper, which is kind of good. Wouldn't it be terrible if all these things started to pop up at once and they were very extreme? And in most instances, for many of us, they're not. It's a gradual decline, a gradual shift in how we're feeling. Another thing is some other things that we really need to pay attention to is slower recovery, whether that's working out. Maybe you've had a night or two where, say, you're away traveling and getting back into your routine once you return home, and how much time that takes to recover from, to kind of regain your center, as far as your energy and just how your body feels. Digestion, I think, is a big part of that too. Things when our routine and our surroundings are not normal or routine, it just shifts everything. That's something that I think is harder to kind of come back to when our hormones are starting to shift and drop. We're waking up tired, right? That's a big one, I think. It's just noticing that I seem to have slept for 7 to 8 hours, but how are you really feeling the next day? Whether you've got a sleep number bed like we do, and there's some feedback that you're getting, you still know. You still know whether or not you slept sound. You still know when you put your feet on the floor in the morning that you're ready to go that morning, right? Of course, blood sugar is that one thing too that's going to deter, or it's going to kind of help you along as far as, that number that you're starting the day at. I know that's a big deal for me. Another thing, again, these are some symptoms that don't always scream, they do whisper, but subtle anxiety. So just feeling a little more anxious about things that never used to rattle you before. Those are things for sure to keep an eye on, and a shorter fuse. So you seem to explode, you react quicker or with a tone that you're not used to kind of expressing. So maybe your kids or your husband or your coworker is starting to notice that, hey, she seems to not be herself like she once was. She seems to be more irritable, easier to irritate, and all of that. So again, I understand this. This was me too. The big thing, and this is like the person in our community that reached out, words missing, that sounds funny, missing words in the middle of a sentence, or not being able to recall somebody's name, right? It's easy to normalize feeling off when it happens slowly. And many of us talk about this when we're in our 40s and 50s, when we're with friends and we're talking about, oh yeah, I just can't seem to remember names like I once did, or, my calendar's so full, it's no wonder I can't keep up. It's no wonder I'm feeling overwhelmed. So it's easy to justify it because there's other things to point it to. But I think it's really important to understand that this is a different time. Things are shifting. Your body's not going to respond like it once did. And the fact that our hormones are declining is going to make this transition much harder. And when we have blood sugar that is harder to keep in some sort of a happy range for you, that's just going to magnify all these other symptoms. So it's this vicious cycle unless we stop and look and pay attention. And we frame it like it's a season check-in or tune-up, right? Especially post-40. So really, and I don't know if you're a journal, if you like to journal, take notes, just keep track. I think it's a great idea if every day you can just note, obviously like what's coming up that day, what your hopes and your plans are. And then I like to circle back and look at them the next morning, and just to see, again, we need to have reasonable expectations as to what our day is going to hold and what our goals are, and to do that without judgment, but to definitely notice when things are shifting, when it's harder to get through, say, some of those tasks that were once just, like you would do without even thinking twice about it. Okay, so a hormone aware self-check. This is a good thing to consider, especially when it's very specifically hormone related. Ask yourself these questions. Am I sleeping deeply and waking rested? And sometimes we've got to look at actions that kind of bounce off of whether or not we slept well. And I think one of the things that comes to mind is that anxiousness or not being as patient, right? It's harder. Gosh, I've in theory have always been a very impatient person. I tend to like to have things now and, get it done and that sort of thing. And I just want to get it done. It's like, hurry up, let's just get this thing done. But when that is starting to kind of irritate you and really kind of throw you for a loop, it's definitely a symptom to pay attention to. Another thing to ask yourself, has my focus shifted, or your ability to focus, your memory, your word recall? Again, these are definitely some topics that we've talked about here on the show as far as brain fog and just having that dysfunction of, those neurotransmitters in the brain. So again, these are some things to be aware of and to honor, definitely. Um, and like I was saying before, another self-check, am I more anxious or reactive than usual? The next one is, has my body composition changed without explanation? So are you carrying more body weight in an area of your body that never once did? I can relate to this as well. I had never had an issue with weight around my waistline or, just the midsection. And suddenly when estrogen was dropping, I started to have a belly, and it's like, and my waistline just expanded. And so those are definitely some telltale signs for myself. I've always kind of carried hips more in my hips, or I should say carried weight more in my hips. And that was starting to expand a little bit too, but it was really around the middle and the midsection that really is something that really kind of raised a flag for me. The next is, how's my recovery after exercise or stress, a stressful situation, and not only mentally, emotionally, but blood sugar wise. How is your body responding when you are under any sort of physical or emotional stress? Exercise is a big thing too. I think this is something I've had to shift and change over the years and just kind of ease up a little bit, not stopping exercise because I love it and I know all the advantages, but just being more strategic for me, it's more about quantity, or I should say, no, it's not. It's about quality over quantity. So I don't have to hit it hard 7 days a week. I'm going to hit it hard 3 to 4 times a week and do some other things that are going to kind of center and balance that on the other days of the week. Again, we're still staying active. We're still staying in tune, still keeping our body flexible and strong, but we're honoring just, those hormones and how it's really impacting, again, recovery. And recovery circles back to sleep because that is where the body is healing and recovering. So all these things to consider. Another question to ask, am I more inflamed or achy? This is a big one as well. Again, estrogen is an anti-inflammatory hormone. And when we are low on it, obviously, those aches and pains are going to be more pronounced. And again, something to pay attention to. Is my cycle still regular or is it shifting? Again, very common. So paying attention, writing that down, whether you use an app that tracks your cycle, I think those are great. You can find one that kind of mirrors your blood sugar with that. There is one that I've just come across, and it's an app I'm going to be featuring and talking more about in my upcoming book. So my book is Highs, Lows, and Hormones. It will be launched early 2026, so more to come on that. But I really I'm going to find out more about this app and seeing how it can be integrated with our CGM report so that we get that data that's not only going to be talking about our hormone levels throughout the month, the follicular luteal phase, ovulation, and all of that. But it's also going to kind of bump up against your blood sugar trends, which is exactly what we need, right? We need that information in one space to be able to monitor it and to watch the trends. The next one this is probably the most blank, direct statement. Do I feel like me most days? And we've lived with ourselves for years, and not to mention our family, right? So they know us too. But we know when things just don't feel right, when we're just not ourselves. So pay attention and just honor that. My own story is really similar. I've been on hormone replacement. You've probably heard me talk about it here on the show many times. So I've been on it for about 5 or 6 years now. So that's estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone. And I've had some cycles on and off because of other health issues that have kind of knocked knocked off my absorption rate. So I've had some episodes throughout those 5 years where my levels were not what they were hoping to be based on my dosage and my consistency of taking the hormones. So I saw these shifts that were happening when I had these compromising situations that were coming in and altering what those levels were. And I was more in tune. It's like the vertigo bout that I got just a year ago, just after I had the skin issues and all the inflammation I was having with my skin, and my absorption went down. And so did my estrogen levels. And I got another bout of vertigo, which is a very common symptom of low estrogen from perimenopause. And if untreated with hormones, can stick around through menopause and beyond. So definitely something to think about. And I've recently I've been getting more joint pain. I was getting some dry skin right around my hairline. It was very, very strange, very dry, irritated skin. And I decided to bump up my estrogen just a little bit more. Again, we can make these decisions. We can definitely get with our practitioner. We know when we need a little more. Our body is speaking to us. So these are examples of things that I did on my own with my practitioner's thumbs up to give myself just a little more estrogen. So that has so far has worked out really well. I'm also wondering with the water weight that I'm noticing too. So again, it's all about the balance, and maybe my progesterone needs to be dialed back in because estrogen and progesterone want to be in sync with one another. So I have an appointment coming up in October. So again, we're always diving in and learning. But number one, like I wanted to talk about today, is paying attention to how your body feels and what's happening differently. So I am looking forward, again, I'm going to get the levels checked because once you're in menopause, it's a good time to be checking the levels, twice a year just to make sure everything's dialed in, especially if symptoms are starting to pop up. And you want to kind of confirm whether or not it is your estrogen, in this case, levels or progesterone levels that are tipping it one way or the other. Or if it's not, then what else is causing the symptoms? So it could be thyroid related. It could be the adrenals. There could be other things that we need to look at. But again, it's paying attention to what's different and talking to your practitioner about this for sure. So the biggest question, what will you choose to do with what you notice? So I hope this information is something that resonates with you. Paying attention to how you're feeling, not compromising with this is just the way it's going to be. There are some clear answers. There are some things you can do. Lifestyle adjustments, as you know, I'm a big advocate of working on the basics, that foundation. So diet, exercise, good sleep, hydration, stress reduction, bringing joy into your life, having fun, and of course, keeping the mineral and vitamin levels optimal. And making sure things like, again, thyroid and some of those other related autoimmune diseases that can pop up for those of us with type 1 diabetes are not part of any sort of issue. So again, understanding, but paying attention to the symptoms, the way our body is talking to us. Symptoms are good, right? Because we can't respond if we don't have something to speak to us. In this case, our body is saying, hey, pay attention. There's something not quite right here. So honoring what's different means being willing to explore new options. So testing, talking to providers, adjusting routines, asking better questions, and listening to your gut, listening to your intuition before a lab confirms anything. So let your symptoms and your body speaking to you be your driver to seek more information. Just like I said, maybe testing's the next step. Talking to your provider is going to be the next step. Adjusting routines needs to be the next step. Asking better or more deeper questions or more detailed questions about really what's going on. Reach out with me. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I love to sit with somebody and we can look at what they're doing, maybe even take a look at your lab reports. Again, I am not a doctor. I can't officially interpret your labs, but together we can look at some things that might be kind of bumping up against each other, some different levels that maybe the doctor's not it's not in tune with. Things like vitamin D3, which impacts so much with insulin sensitivity and our immune system and how we feel and our energy. Iron, B, again, optimal levels. So be sure to be chasing optimal levels, not just standard, not just average, because these little things could really be the difference that is helping you. It's helping your overall energy. It's helping your relationship with your diabetes because we want to get up every day. We want to feel our best. We want to do all we can to age well with diabetes. And this is definitely something that I am just so passionate about. So, a question for you is what's changed for you? Just to reflect on everything I've shared today. What's changed for you in the last few years that you didn't question, maybe until now? Maybe there's some things that you're saying, oh, maybe I need to look a little closer at that. Maybe I should have that tested. That's something to talk with my doctor about. Definitely don't dismiss, but look deeper, ask the questions, and you can get this done for yourself. If this episode hit home, get on my book pre-launch list and you can get early access, exclusive bonuses, and updates as I get ready to launch the book, Highs, Lows, and Hormones. So this is going to be a guide for women with diabetes from menstrual cycles to menopause. It's going to be very specific and it's going to be all about what you need to support yourself as you're aging and all the hormonal ins and outs. And it's going to include a lot of different things: diet, exercise, stress, sleep. Again, all those foundational things, but basically how they all bump up around the changes in your blood sugar in relation to your hormonal stages. And it's going to be amazing. I'm having fun putting it together and working with a few other practitioners as they contribute to the book. And you can start right now. You can download a free guide that I have created. It's the one I wish I had in perimenopause. I'm glad I took the time to put this together because I think it's a good fresh start, something for you to start with. And again, the book is going to be like the icing on the cake once that is out and published for you to purchase. And this guide, it breaks down the what, when, and how of hormone replacement alongside the foundational things. Again, we believe that here. And so you can feel more confident and start the right conversation with your doctor. So you can grab it. It's right here in the show notes. And again, you stay in my community. You hear from me every week. You get instant notifications about all our episodes that drop here every Monday morning. And I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me online if this topic spurred something in your memory. We want to spur our memory, don't we? Or if there's something specific that you are challenged with right now, or you have any questions, or if you just want to talk, let me know and reach out. I love to hear from all the ladies here in the community. And just remember, you don't need to chase every symptom. We don't have to be over obsessed. But you do need to trust your sense of what's shifting and to be brave enough, again, to respond and to not settle. That's the most important thing. You are a vital, beautiful woman. You have so much value for everybody in your life and to the world. And we want to keep you here. We want to keep you happy. We want to keep you healthy. So I hope this has resonated with you. Again, reach out, stay in touch. And I am wishing you a beautiful rest of your day. Bye for now.